like music to kind of calm her. And eventually some of those kind of took a hold, and I would just kind of rock her back and forth.
Nice.
But now she's addicted to EDM, so I don't know if that's such a great thing.
No, everyone has to have a thing, right?
Well, I think it's the beat. It's like the dun 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 dun, and it's kind of like a metronome.
Dancing kid.
Dancing kid.
Oh, Sarah, did you notice that I shoehorned in the Nokia numbers as well? Okay,
yeah.
good.
Thank you.
That to be a unwelcome surprise. No, I don't. Figured we should have some good numbers on top of the other numbers.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah. Number 11.
We're number one. We're number one.
Are we number one?
Nokia.
We are number one.
We're number one.
Yeah.
Nokia is number 11. Okay.
Yeah.
Just no comparison.
Well, HMD Global is actually number 11.
Wow.
Under the Nokia brand.
Okay, fine.
And just a reminder, I got to bounce out of here closer to 2:15 today because I have a haircut.
Well, let's just go ahead and get started then, shall we?
Okay.
Everybody ready?
We're 1 minute early.
I know. It's insane.
Why not? Why not?
Oh, crazy. All right. Here we go. Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by you. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, February 13th, 2018. From DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
And from Poop Central in Helsinki, I'm Patrick Beja.
And that is not a reflection on Finland. For those who haven't been following us, Patrick Beja is a new father. 2 weeks old baby in the house. So, of course, it's Poop Central there.
Yeah, clearly. And, I have to tell you, I am quite disappointed with that baby product that I just got. First, it doesn't come with an instruction manual. It's completely arcane in the way it works. It's impossible to understand. So you end up going to YouTube to check out some obscure videos that are all contradict each other. Then the functionalities are unfinished. Like the digestive system doesn't work. The cognitive functions are joked. This thing is so bugged. You'd think it was coded by Apple programmers or something.
Listen, man, you just need to wait for the firmware updates. They will eventually come and fix all these problems. Man. Yeah. But we think you're going to love it.
Yeah, at some point.
Our other father on the panel, Roger Chang, our producer, is here as well.
Yes, they also come nearsighted. But, the great thing about them is they're self-healing. They actually develop over time. So
that's a pretty interesting.
Just buckle yourself in. It'll be quite a trick.
I'm sure.
All right, we're going to talk about cloud gaming. Patrick's got hands-on experience with it, but let's start with a few tech things you should know.
IDC estimates that Google doubled their number of Pixel phones shipped to 3.9 million in 2017. Now, if that sounds like a lot, that's about the same as a typical week for Samsung or Apple. But to make Google feel better, IDC estimates that Essential sold just 88,000 units in its first 6 months on the market. Meanwhile, a report from Counterpoint estimates that HMD Global, which makes phones for Nokia, sold 4.4 million handsets in Q4 of 2017, making it the 11th phone seller in the world.
We're number one.
The 88,000. Ouch. I mean, we knew they weren't doing great, but phew. Jeez.
My phone is 1 in 88,000. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, true. Exclusive. Facebook added lists as an option to its status box field. As you might guess, it lets users create lists with colored backgrounds and emojis. Examples of lists include places you'd like to visit or things you need to get done or things you need to get done that for some reason you need to share with all your friends and family.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, why not? Emojis, they're good in everything.
Microsoft announced it will support public blockchains for use in decentralized identity systems, starting with blockchain-based decentralized IDs or DIDs through the Microsoft Authenticator app. Microsoft plans to work with the DID-specific standards outlined by a W3C working group. Very interesting. All right, let's talk a little bit more about AMP. Is Google trying to snap a piece of Snapchat?
Well, Google is now offering publishers a developer preview of AMP Stories, a new spin on its mobile-friendly format that features swipeable slides of text, photos, graphics, and videos for stories that show up in its news section at the top of Google's search results. Publishers already developing for AMP Stories include Vox Media, Condé Nast, and Time Warner. Google is also creating Gmail developer preview of AMP for email, which brings AMP functions to email so you can enter and access info without leaving Gmail.
It's funny, when I was first looking at the story this morning, I was like, okay, it's what Google's doing that's like Snapchat or Instagram. Like, what app are we talking about? And then, I was like, oh, it's websites that you would visit within the Google app itself, or Gmail functionality, right? If you're gonna, deep dive a little bit on a restaurant that's mentioned in an email or something like that. So, and then going to be separated in search results as well. It's cool. I mean, this is obviously a mobile thing, but I can see where this kind of like old way of doing the web that has existed on mobile for quite some time. You're looking at websites the same way you always did. There's a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah, so if you want to try it out, you can try it out on any mobile browser. I think it's go.to/AMP Stories. I may be wrong about that. You might want to look that URL up for sure. But if you go to that link, you get forced into the version of the Google search engine that supports AMP Stories. And then you'll have to search for one of the providers. So maybe you search for The Verge or SB Nation or something like that. And then you'll get the results in a little slide bar, which says visual stories. And then you click on them and it's like you're looking at Instagram stories or Snapchat. So a lot of people are saying, well, wait a minute, this is going to be a competitor to Snapchat. But first of all, as Sarah pointed out, it's not in an app. It's just Google. And also, Snapchat kind of likes the idea. The VP of Content, Nick Bell from Snapchat, told TechCrunch they think this could help companies work more on their Snapchat-like storytelling, which would mean they might tell more of those stories on Snapchat, reuse that same way of doing things in multiple places.
Or on Instagram. But didn't many media or press content creators say that those story formats weren't working out as well as they would have hoped?
Well, I think a lot of the problem is that, if you've got a social team who's been tasked with like, okay, we have all these stories, like make them Snapchat friendly, like do that whole thing, that, then you have to try to push people towards another account that's associated with your brand. If you don't have to do that, but there is some sort of proof of concept in the fact that it can be sort of snappier, more visual, and hook people in a way that they've become accustomed to, that's good for publishers. I mean, I think somebody at Snapchat has to say things like this, like, hey, we love the way that this is going, because that's the whole, platform that Snapchat is built on as well.
Yeah, but I think they're right. If a company's making visual stories just for Snapchat and they're not getting pickup because nobody's going to Snapchat and using them, they stop making them. If, however, the social team says they're also showing up in AMP Stories and they're doing really well, let's just keep making them. We might as well keep doing them on Snapchat. That could lead to more stories being on Snapchat, and more stories being on Snapchat may make people go, oh, this is actually useful on Snapchat, and make it succeed. It's definitely possible. By the way,
all right, moving on. Facebook is showing some iOS users.
Hold on a second. W. Scott is one, g.co/AMP Stories, if you want to go check it out. Just wanted to make sure I got the correct URL out there. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Facebook is showing some iOS users an option called Protect that leads them to the App Store listing for Facebook's VPN app. Onavo Protect, that's what it's called, is meant to keep your data private on the web. Sounds fine. at least private from everybody but Facebook, because the app tracks which websites and other apps you're using and then sends that info back to Facebook. A lot of people aren't happy with that. The data is used to improve Anavo as well as Facebook products and services. Facebook acquired Anavo back in 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is okay. I would not have any problem with this on the surface because it says in the description what it's doing. It says we will track, doesn't use the word track, but it'll say we will, use the apps and websites you visit to help improve our services and Facebook products. So they're not hiding it. What I don't like is that they're making it a tab in Facebook that says protect, which is going to lead a lot of people who aren't seeking out a VPN app and therefore probably don't know what to look for in that description and may not even read the description to say, oh, I want to protect. Sure. Who does it? Protect me. It goes to the App Store and they just press install without reading that caveat.
However,
go ahead, Patrick.
Doesn't it actually fulfill that function? Yes, you're going to be tracked for, it's going to track what you do for Facebook, which, let's be honest, they probably do already know everything you do. But at the same time, they are going to provide you with the functions of a VPN for any other bad actor that would, take advantage of your browsing or whatever you do.
If I have an ad blocker, Facebook doesn't know everything I do. If I have this VPN app on, they know everything I do. So because this isn't just tracking me on the Facebook app, it's tracking everything I do on the phone at that point.
Yeah. Well, if any page that has a like button is already tracking you for Facebook.
That's why I said if I have an ad blocker on, that's not necessarily true.
Yeah,
it could be blocking that. So I don't know. I think this is pretty bad. Kind of billing it as protection when it's really tracking is two-faced.
But that's my point. It is also protection.
I'm not necessarily as paranoid about Facebook as some folks. But to be offering a VPN app, which has a very specific purpose, right? And Facebook to not be super clear that like, oh, by the way, we're now going to know everything that you're doing when you think you've, sort of obfuscated yourself from the world. That's not a VPN app I would use. I just wouldn't.
And who is Facebook going to share it with?
I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate here, but they are being clear. You said, Sarah, they're not really saying it. They are saying it. Everyone's reporting that they are saying it because it's very clearly stated. And again, it is protecting you if you're, in an airport or in a hotel or in whatever. It is protecting you against those kinds of threats. So yes and no at the same time. It's not just no. Or
it's like it's along the lines of bundling in a browser toolbar in an antivirus app. It's like that to me.
I think that's a bit harsh, but
ARM publicly unveiled Project Trillium, which is two different chipset designs, object detection and machine learning. The first designs are for the ARM machine learning processor, an ML processor, which will speed up general AI applications from machine translation to facial recognition. And the ARM object detection processor is a second generation design optimized for processing visual data, particularly in detecting people and objects. The OD, or object detection processor, is expected at the end of this month and will probably show up in things like cameras, security cameras, quadcopters, things that could benefit from really good visual detection. The ML processor is likely to show up in the middle of the year and be for things like phones and tablets to help them do more of that machine language processing. Remember, iPhone has made their own little ML processor like that. ARM will license the processor designs to third-party manufacturers. That's what they do, in case you weren't aware of that. So ARM doesn't make the processors. They'll show up in a bunch of different designs, though.
All right, so this is not just smartphone stuff. This is Internet of Things.
Yeah.
These are what these processes are going to be helpful for.
Yeah, the ODs could definitely show up in Internet of Things, and maybe even some of the MLs, possibly.
Doesn't NVIDIA also create that kind of specialized processor? I think for autonomous cars, specialized for that kind of visual detection. But it seems logical that different manufacturers and CPU manufacturers would branch out into these areas because they're very important to the industry right now.
I think another implication of this is ARM is already moving, proceeding into the next phase right? They want to be on servers. They've got machine language designs. They've got object detection designs, and they have people who work with them already. Intel is scrambling to become the next Internet of Things chip provider, to become a machine language internet chip provider. And like you said, NVIDIA is making progress there. So this is bad news for Intel. It's not necessarily the death blow for Intel, but it means they're not going to get an easy path.
This semester, Harvard and MIT are jointly offering a new course on the ethics of artificial intelligence. The course has 30 students, focuses on the ethical, policy, and legal implications of artificial intelligence. Meanwhile, the University of Texas at Austin has a new course called Ethical Foundations of Computer Science and may eventually require it for all computer science majors. And at Stanford University, 3 professors and a research fellow are developing a computer science ethics course for next year. Computer science programs are required to make sure students have an understanding of ethical issues related to computing in order to be accredited by Abbott.
Yeah, Natasha Singer wrote up all of this for New York Times, and it's a really interesting article because it talks about how these computer science programs have always sort of fulfilled the basics of like, yeah, there's an ethics course. We made sure it has a chapter on computers. Go take that, and it's fine. And they're going into more detail now and saying we need to have our own courses. We need to talk to young computer science majors about the effects their work will have. No, it isn't as directly important as an ethics class in medicine. Lives are not at stake directly most of the time. But with technology pervading more and more of our lives, it does have implications on people's lives. And sometimes computer scientists are perceived, or at least tech companies are perceived as not considering ethics.
And even if an ethics class is not necessarily like, here is, sort of the moral code you need to follow, but here are the implications that you need to consider at all times, because you're going to, possibly be a leader once you graduate in this field. Kind of reminds me of when, I was getting my broadcasting degree and we were required to take a broadcasting law class.
Yeah,
in order
right.
to graduate. It was just like, you just had to, whether you really wanted to be a lawyer or care about that stuff or not. And it's come up. A lot of that information has come up over my career, even if, it wasn't totally firsthand. And I think it seems pretty mandatory at this point that this is a conversation that we all need to be having more of.
And I mean, ethics in general, yay. And we probably need more of that in today's world. But especially in the case of artificial intelligence, even if it's not necessarily applicable right now, these students are going to be developing artificial intelligence for the next, 50, 60, 70 years. And at some point in that time frame, it might become very necessary to have a basic understanding or an advanced understanding of ethics when you're developing artificial intelligence tools.
Moving on, Apple announced it's partnering with Warriors star small forward Kevin Durant. I'm talking about NBA basketball. Durant's company is called 35 Media, and Imagine Media is also partnering to create Swagger, a new scripted series based on Durant's early life. About a month ago, YouTube announced it was also partnering with Durant's video business to offer up original sports programming, though not in a scripted format, more like documentary and short-form videos. Apple's investing heavily in original scripted content, including projects with Reese Witherspoon as producer, a series from La La Land's Damien Chazelle, and a reboot of Steven Spielberg's 80s classic, Amazing Stories.
Wow.
So
there's so many ways to go.
Before the show, Tom was like, this seems like a story that you would be interested in, Sarah. And I'm like, heck yeah. First of all, I'm a Warriors fan and also a Durant fan, since the curse has been lifted. Some of you will know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's scripted, right? So it's not like, oh, maybe Durant is like a really good actor and, it'll be like a
he's not
reality
in
show.
it.
It's not that at all.
It's like Everybody Hates Chris, but for Kevin Durant, NBA star.
Right. I don't know anything about his early life. Probably should know more about him, considering I'm such a fan. But okay, sounds great. He's a big star, that's for sure. Whether or not Apple is, partnering with all the right folks to make hits, they're gonna have the same problem that Netflix and Amazon and all the other heavy hitters have had, where it's like, it's not always a hit, even if you've got all the right people involved. It just is this, Apple is really trying to get into the original and scripted portion of online video.
What is Apple doing? Reese Witherspoon, Damien Chazelle, Steven Spielberg, the list goes on. And now a fictionalized account of an NBA star's youth. I am beyond curious how this is all going to play out when Apple unleashes all of these shows. Like you said, Sarah, they may or may not be hits just because they have big names, but they've got big names. And I mean, is it going to be like Apple TV, like Apple Music, where you pay a subscription fee to get all this stuff? I'm very, very curious now.
I don't know. I mean, we've been talking about all of these new series for quite some time. I mean, besides the, what was the app show? The reality show.
Yeah, let's just forget. Let's
forget about that. But I mean, that's the only show that I've been like, okay, I got it. You did that. It's not for me. And I know a lot of other people feel the same way. But that's not a docudrama.
No, that has nothing
really
to do with
to be
this.
seen how this plays out, and it sounds like, really, for the most part, Durant's video team is going to be doing the heavy lifting on the production of this.
Yeah, no, he's just licensing his name, and both car karaoke and the app show
Carpool karaoke.
Nothing to do with this. This is an entire reboot of Apple's approach to original content. So I'm very, very
well. I mean, Apple. Just to finish up, Apple did not have any hand into video production before those. I think they were more like, let's start building up a team and trying things out. And it's like a test tube of let's see what happens, and as training wheels, kind of.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what the next phase brings. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines. It's available on the Amazon Echo, Google Home, Anchor app, and more. In fact, as a regular podcast at dailytechheadlines.com. So we've got a little bit of time, and I want to talk about Patrick's use of the Blade cloud gaming PC service. It's a cloud PC service. Blade launched the Shadow service in France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, and UK already, and it's coming to California. You can pre-order it now. You've been able to pre-order it since January, and it's supposed to launch mid-February. So a lot of people have been saying February 15th, but we're not sure exactly where. What you get is a virtual server that includes 8 dedicated threads on an Intel Xeon processor, a NVIDIA Quadro P5000 graphics card with 16 gigabytes of RAM, 12 gigabytes of regular RAM, and 256 gigabytes of storage space in the cloud. And they will continually upgrade this as new parts and better parts become available. They claim 0 latency, and all you need is a 15 megabit per second connection or faster. It's not cheap. $34.95 a month if you do a year commitment. If you want to go month to month, it's $50 a month, but it'll work anywhere. They say it'll work on a phone. It'll work on a tablet. It'll work on a PC. They've even got a dedicated box coming out later this year that you can rent or buy. You provide the games through Steam. Well, whatever you got on Steam can play on this because it's just a Windows 10 box. Big question, Patrick, is though, does it work? Is it really 0 latency?
So there's a lot of things to unpack here. First of all, I would say it's not only a gaming PC service; it's really a PC service. And the description you're giving of you have kind of a server somewhere with all of those arcane, names that people might not have heard about, like a Xeon. Well, I want a Pentium or like a Core I something, or I don't want an NVIDIA Quadro. I want a GTX 1080. Those aren't really what it is. It's really a PC, a high-spec PC, and you get a fresh Windows install on your PC that you connect to, and then you can do whatever you want with it. You can install Steam, you can install Chrome, you can install the Blizzard app, you can install Office, whatever you want. It's a PC, except it's in the cloud, right? And it actually really works as advertised. Now, I don't know that I would say it's absolute 0 latency, and certainly for the lowest spec requirement for bandwidth, 15 megabits per second, you probably don't want to be watching something that is going to be moving a lot, a video with very fast-paced movement.
Well, that sounds bad for video games.
Well, I'm talking about the 15 megabits per second connection.
Yeah, it says zero latency, play your video games 15 megabits per second.
Most video games you're going to be able to play. Okay. And let's cut the suspense here. It actually works for 95% of your uses perfectly. The one instance where I've seen you might be a little bit dissatisfied is if you're playing a very fast-paced video game that requires you to have minimal lag, where if you have like more than 50 or 100 milliseconds lag, you're probably going to see it impact your performance. It's still playable, but it's going to impact your performance. What's well, Overwatch, for example, which is a game I play a lot. It's definitely playable, but I do feel a slight lag between moving my mouse and seeing the movement translated onto the server. That being said, the zero latency thing really does play a part, because the way they work, it's all in the peering agreements, right? They have peering agreements with the major, I'm guessing, the major gaming servers and service providers that you want to be using. So their connection to those is incredibly fast, 1-2 milliseconds. When I connect to a game on Overwatch, it shows on my screen the lag is about 2 milliseconds, right? And then they have peering agreements with your service provider. If you are, I don't know, in France, let's say Orange, if you're using Orange as an ISP, they have peering agreements with Orange. So they have the fastest possible connection between those points. So the lag is definitely going to be as small as it can be. So let's say through Orange, you would have a slightly longer connection, a longer lag to your server you want to connect. They put an emphasis, Blade, Shadow puts an emphasis on having very lag-free connection to those servers. So they might actually make that trip faster than you would through Orange. And since they have a connection with Orange, the whole thing becomes actually pretty fast. So it works. It's not cheap, but on the other hand, if you jump in, it means you don't really need to worry about having a powerful computer at home anymore. You can just have any old computer lying around. And you don't have to keep upgrading it. You don't have to,
keep adding new video cards or anything, because that's just taken care of for you.
Yeah. It's not bug free. I don't want to make it seem like it works perfectly. I've had some bugs. Some of the mouse movement translation is a little bit wonky sometimes. You might have. I have, again, on the game Overwatch. I'm a former Blizzard employee, so disclosure. But on that game, I've had issues. After a couple of hours, the screen goes black, and I don't know why when I'm using the service. And so there are some bugs, but I think it's definitely at a stage, and a larger consideration on that kind of service. It is at a stage where it is more than usable. It is functional. It's not going to be functional for everyone, and it's not going to be functional for everything, but you can honestly say it is functional. So yeah, anything.
$420 a year for the use of a machine that would cost you a few $1,000s to own.
To own, yes, exactly.
And would go out of date within a year.
Yeah. The one issue is the storage capacity. I would say 256 gigabytes is probably not going to be what you need for your main computer.
But with a gigabyte connection, you could just have things in Dropbox and not store them locally, or Steam, just download the games from the cloud when you need them. I mean, it takes a little more management, though.
And you're going to have connection speeds to, downloading your games or to Dropbox that are insane, like the fastest possible imaginable thing. Not just because your connection is fast, because they also have those big pipes that the things are going through. And you also can use it from anywhere. You obviously, if you're on a slower connection, it's not going to work as fast. But I'm guessing if what you are using it for is Office or something like that, you really don't need a very fast connection at all.
Can it make enough for them to pay for the maintenance of the data centers? That was what sunk on live. Is it different now? Can they get enough customers, and can $35 a month or $50 a month to month, can it make enough money? That will be the big question. Sounds like the best version of this yet.
I think so, yeah. I think the issue with a gaming service like OnLive was that they needed the commercial partnerships in order to offer the games that were interesting on their service, and no developer or publisher was interested in providing those games for their service.
And that meant they didn't get enough people, which meant they couldn't pay for the big data centers. But the data centers are still expensive, especially if you're going to keep them up to date.
But it is mutualized, it's shared resources, and they are into very scrappy, developing startup mode, and they're pretty aggressive. I think it's definitely worth keeping an eye on.
Well, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. Sarah, I believe there are things in the mailbag of interest.
Actually, yeah, we got a bunch of responses on our topic yesterday about Uber requiring its drivers, to take breaks so that they don't drive too much and put everybody at risk. Big Jim wrote in and said, you compare Uber drivers and Lyft drivers, because same rules there, to regular workers, but better to compare them to truck drivers, which have very specific hours of service requirements set forth by the Department of Transportation. They can work 15 hours straight, then they have to not drive at all for 8 hours. He links us to a couple of reference points. And then Sakani, who actually is a truck driver, wrote in with a lot of the same sentiments. It said, the hourly limit is obviously to prevent accidents caused by city drivers. This limit does apply to commercial drivers and also independent contractors, and many professional truckers are. What's unclear from a legal perspective is whether or not TNC, which stands for Transportation Network Company, Lyft and Uber drivers fall under that requirement, is considered to be commercial drivers and thus subject to this same limit. Even if they were, the responsibility would be on the individual drivers to make sure that they're in compliance, not with Uber or Lyft. Speaking of Lyft, they've been forcing drivers to log off after 12 hours for over a year, so maybe this is Uber's PR move in advance of some upcoming legislation. Hard to know. And he goes on to explain a little bit. Explain a little bit more about how drowsy Uber drivers, there's probably a lot more of them than we'd all like to admit, because this is not exactly high-paying work for a lot of folks. And when you're trying to make ends meet, if there's no real repercussions, then you're going to have drivers try to get around this stuff. Yeah.
No, it sounds like if the TNC rules don't apply, maybe we need rules like that for ride hailing. Thanks to Sakani and Big Jim, and Jason Meidenbauer also wrote in noting the same things. Great to have this kind of expertise from the audience apply here. Absolutely. And also great to have Patrick Beja back on the show. New dad, talk about lack of sleep, but for other reasons, for wonderful reasons. Great to have you back, and let folks know, what you've been up to.
Well, I've missed all of you guys, and I have missed podcasting. And I actually just published a new episode of Pixels, my gaming show, where I go into my experiences of Monster Hunter World and other games that I've played in the past couple of weeks. And you can check that out. Just search for Pixels in your podcast app. It's very easy.
Sweet. Excellent. Thank you. Please, everyone go do that. And everyone go check out the store. dailytechnewsshow.com/store has a bunch of new colorful options, including a Born Ready onesie in honor of Patrick's new baby. You can also get a regular Born Ready t-shirt. DTNS logo t-shirts also available in multiple colors now. There's all kinds of new colors for that. The hoodie's still there. The mug's still there. You can choose the old logo or the new logo, whichever you want. It's all at dailytechnewsshow.com/store. And don't forget to continue to support us. We need more of you in the pool to get to one more patron than last month at patreon.com/DTNS.
If you have feedback, questions, comments, anything, our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC. And if you want to know all your options, because you have quite a few, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
We'll be back tomorrow with Mr. Scott Johnson. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
I have enjoyed this program.
Well, then you have satisfied their hopes. Because
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
fulfilled their dreams.
There's nothing more satisfying than satisfying Diamond Club's hopes.
It's true. It's very true.
They really hope you have. Well, good show, Patrick. So nice to have you back.
Thank
Yay.
you. You know, I was getting antsy, and I wanted to podcast already. Only 2-3 weeks after having stopped. So
Does
nice.
does little not Patrick have a name, or are we not talking about that?
Yes, he does.
What is his name?
I'll type it.
Oh, yeah.
It's Finnish.
It
It can't be pronounced by human tongue.
I guess my question should have been, is his name the thing you want to talk about?
Well, I mean,
Sorry.
I'm not. It's not like completely secret, but
Got it.
But yeah, no, I get it. You're not spreading it far and wide.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
findable.
We will just call him Baby Who Shall Not Be Named.
That's fine. Yeah.
The one that was born ready.
We'll call it
Yes.
Patrick Jr. for now.
Not Patrick Jr.
Not Patrick Jr.
Because he's not unless he is. I don't really know. I'm not saying he is or he isn't.
They have latency as a service. Blade cuts through PC game streaming.
Oh, titles, yes.
Facebook lists. Now it's personal. The arm is moving. Everyone hates Durant except Apple.
What?
I didn't even know. I didn't
That's
realize
not true.
Durant was a hated person. An AI a day keeps the ethicist away. Let's see. Reminder: everyone wants your info. Oh, Snapchat, Facebook is trying to protect you. I like Blade cuts through PC game streaming.
Blade cuts through PC game streaming.
Yeah, it's clever.
I guess it sort of does.
Blade cuts through PC game lag? Question mark? Because it's not cutting through streaming. But maybe I'm being too pedantic.
I think a little bit, yes.
All right. I'm willing to be outvoted on this.
Well, it's only my vote outvoting, countering yours now. Maybe the others agree.
I like the Blade one.
Okay, there you go.
But the question was, should it be Blade cuts through PC game streaming or Blade cuts through PC game lag?
What about
Yeah, it's not cutting the streaming.
cuts through
Yeah,
PC.
it cuts through. It's like all fast and cuts through the BS.
Well,
and,
what about Blade cuts through PC stream lag? Yeah.
That's like the worst of both.
a little bit?
Blade cuts through watermelon and aluminum can.
That's awesome.
It's a Ginsu knife.
Blade, the Ginsu knife of PC game streaming. And remains razor sharp.
Yeah, Thrumwold, why wouldn't you be able to stream Twitch or YouTube from Blade PC? Actually, we didn't mention it, but they have for creators, they have a special version of their service called Rec, I think, that does just that. That streams for you.
So Blade cuts through PC game streaming or lag. Roger, you can either give us a tie or be the deciding vote.
Let's go through lag. Cuts through PC game.
There you go.
I would
All
like to add stream in there. Forget it. Stream lag.
Through lag and streaming. See, that's the importance.
Now I'm
of
starting to see.
design.
I'm starting to come around to what Roger's saying because the lag is related to the streaming.
Yeah. So
you have to
cuts
have
through
game
streaming.
too.
Well, I
What
mean, the
about
streaming
Blade
is
cuts
lag
through
and
streaming
bandwidth.
lag?
Now I'm starting to
Streaming
come
is
back
lag
around to
and
Patrick's
bandwidth.
wave.
So
too long, then.
maybe it should be cuts through.
PC game streaming.
All right, let's just leave it at what Mojam originally had.
Yeah, no, I think Mojam's knew what he was doing there. So okay.
Victory for Mojam.
And Patrick.
Well, if you insist.
Oh, but I do.
All right. I'm probably going to go and try to get some sleep. While
Yeah,
I
absolutely. Thanks for being on, man. It's good to see you again.
Sure.
See
It
you,
was
Patrick.
great.
Congrats
And
again.
thank you. And there was no screaming babies.
No lag.
Yeah.
It was like, nothing ever happened.
Yeah, it was like it was a month ago.
If you
and
had
life
never
was
told me that you had a baby, I would not know right now.
Well,
No.
actually, how do you know I actually did?
Ooh.
Then you would be lying, and if
No
you
wonder
were
you don't
lying,
want to tell the
Patrick,
name. There's no baby.
Da, da, da. That
you
will
were
be
lying,
the
Patrick.
that will be the how do you call it? Like the secret thing happening at the end of the season.
Yeah. The twists.
The cliff. Yeah, the twist at
The
the end
lemon
of
twist.
the year. Well, Big Jim is saying because we've seen pictures, but how do you know they were
be
pictures
anybody.
of my
Could be any baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a stand-in
We need some
baby,
Optical
Babies on
detection.
demand.
It could be a rented baby. We don't know.
Finland has all sorts of.
Yeah, socialized babies.
Strange services.
It's kind of like truck driving, after a certain amount of hours, you can't do it
Yeah,
anymore.
you have to. You have
go
to
get
stop.
some rest.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, I bid you farewell
Au revoir.
and see you next.
Parting is such
Partying
I
is
can't
sweatshop sorrow.
Yep.
Bye.
You're not on studio, are
enjoy
you?
your rented baby.
What? Yes, I will. Bye.
Bye.
You broke
Get
up,
out while you
Sarah.
can. The joke's getting worse.
You broke up. You're not on studio, are you?
I am.
Are you?
I am.
Broke up for me. Oh, well.
Just now?
Yeah, just now.
It might have been because he was disconnecting. Or...
Maybe because we were talking about babies.
I don't know. I put it on studio before the show started, and I was really solid on my end the whole time.
All right. It was just me.
It was just you.
Sometimes these things happen.
I did add a little light over here, which you guys don't. I mean, I'm the only one who cares about this as much as I do, but I think it helps a lot. And then I worked a little bit with the depth of this. So the background should be slightly more out of focus than it has been before. I can see it.
Yeah, a little bit. I see it.
All right.
I see depth. Fine. Well, I wasn't looking before.
No, it's okay. It's like these are things I realize are like I'm obsessing over them, and I'm the only one.
Rick Fu says, "How have I missed the domo in the background at Studio Feline?"
That just arrived today.
Well, that's
it actually
why.
was. It was in my. It was in. Well, anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on over in that corner of the room that you don't have to see, but it was in my little cat wicker thing before, so it existed on my other set, but it was never on top of a couch the way that it is now.
Not
Good
like now.
eagle eye
Rick Fu.
work, Rick.
Well, folks, I think we're going to finish up. Thanks to everybody for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your Tuesday.
Yeah.
Bye.
Enjoy your Tuesday.
Bye.